Hi, Danny here. I want to quickly note before this video, we had a lot of technical issues recording the first half of Chapter 18, and unfortunately that also resulted in the loss of some footage. So I've spliced together, we re-recorded our sort of analysis on Tanith and the Shitty Hawks, and I've spliced that together with the gameplay that didn't get lost. So it's a little bit, it might be a little bit sort of not necessarily information matching up, but there is like a week apart between the recording sessions from the time that I figured out that we were missing some footage. Apologize and thank you for understanding. So we do have 4 new units. As I mentioned, there were technical difficulties, so we lost the conversation about Tanith and Jenoff and Ulki. I know Jacob, Tanith's one of my favorite units as well, but I know that you were very excited to talk about her, so I'll let you go first while I'm assigning stat boosters.
Oh, I will take any excuse to talk about Tanith for a second time. So part of why I like Tanith is part of why I like Marcia, honestly. It's just another flyer that lets you do things. Flyers, especially in this game, are just so strong. With the 2x effectiveness from arrows, you don't really have to worry about them going down too easy from bows, ballista, or anything like that. So you don't really have to worry about keeping them safe from archers. They have super canto, lances are nice, swords, it would have been nice to have a different secondary weapon, but they get the job done.
I think that
As
for
far as
Tanith in particular, sorry to interrupt you, but I think that for Tanith in particular, swords are actually the best weapon to have given her because of this baby right here that she has basically exclusive access to.
I was just thinking that it gives her access to Sonic Sword.
And she's probably the best user of the magical physical weapons, like the Flame Lance and the Sonic Sword and the Rune Sword. But I like Sonic Sword on her in particular because it is effective against other flyers, specifically wyverns with low res, and so I can just send her into a flyer-only terrain and have her kill them all.
Exactly. She has such high base speed that she doubles pretty much anything she goes up against. 10 magic, while lower than her strength, is the gap between her strength and magic is less than the gap between most enemies' defense and res. Res is usually the much lower stat on enemies, so getting to use a magical weapon with your magic stat, especially if it's 10 like hers, you'll just destroy wyverns and even some wyvern lords. It does only have 25 uses, which does suck, and I don't think you get a second one in this game.
So the eternal frustration of me. In Chapter 19, the boss has a Sonic Sword, and it's pretty easy to manipulate his AI because he has a Sonic Sword and a Silver Sword. It's pretty easy to manipulate his AI to equip the Silver Sword instead of the Sonic Sword. But he has 20 speed, and the speed cap for thieves is 20. And Volk gets his promotion at the end of that chapter. So you can't steal the second, and that's the only other Sonic Sword in the game. You do get a Hammern staff, and I do plan on Hammerning the Sonic Sword at least once.
I think that's one of your best uses of it. I can't think of very much outside of Siege Tomes or Brave Weapons that would be your best choice for Hammern.
Forges in Maniac mode, I used Hammern on the crit forges I made.
Japanese crit forges.
But yeah, did you? I'm sorry to interrupt you and get sidetracked.
Oh no,
did you
yeah,
want
you're
to
good.
say anything more about Tanith? Because I think she's of the units we got the most interesting one to talk about, other than I guess Racin. But Racin's interesting for dancer reasons.
Oh yeah. If you go over to her weapon ranks, she starts off with really high weapon ranks too. It's A swords, B lances. You can use just about every single weapon in the game you would ever need her to use. I know she can use blades without getting slowed down as well, so that'll help her damage output a little bit, and she's accurate enough for the most part to not have to worry about missing. I don't think that'll be a luxury you have in this run because her skill's not going to go up at all. If I had to pick an only downside for her, I'd say that she's base level 10, meaning that she's going to gain EXP a little slowly and she doesn't have very much room left to grow. But even if she doesn't turn out as well as you want her to, Tanith's trump card is her reinforced skill that she comes with, which lets you summon yellow units that you can order around the battlefield. And by order around the battlefield, I mean stand in ballista range so you don't get hit by them.
Honestly, I would much rather have some of my blue units get hit by ballistas than those yellow units, especially the Falco Knights with the silver lances. Those things are incredibly powerful, and I believe they get scaled with difficulty because I know that in Maniac mode they were often stronger than Tanith.
Oh, I've heard that they get really strong in Maniac mode, but even in hard mode, the Holy Guard Falco Knight comes with a silver lance and has really high stats. It survives forever and kills just about everything.
Yeah, Reinforce is ridiculously good, and it's a reason why even if Tanith's stats were not as amazing as they are, she would still be fielded in probably every single map until the end of the game from now on. She is going to be my main carry. You saw that I gave her the boots. I normally advocate giving them to Jill or Marcia, whichever one you would prefer to have higher movement. I usually go Jill because while I think Marcia's availability makes her better, I think Jill's like a better long-term unit. But either way, I gave her the boots because like she's gonna be my main combat flyer. She's so fucking good. I also gave her a Seraph Robe and a Draco Shield, and I believe those were the last. It was definitely the last Seraph Robe. I think there might be one more Draco Shield in Without a King, but I'm not sure about that. There's a couple of stat boosters in there. There's a lot of chests in that and a lot of chests in solo, and I don't always get all of them. But yeah, even if I hadn't invested things in her, like she would have 32 HP at base and what would that be, 15 defense. Like, she's just really good.
Tanith's one of those units that I always find myself fielding in every single map from here on out. I can't really think of a single map where I think to myself, oh, I don't want her in this map, other than maybe solo, because that entire map is just a bunch of shove bots and siege tome. Like, maybe you can use her with a chest key to go get something, but otherwise I find myself using Tanith in every map for the rest of the game.
Yeah, and
something else that makes her really good is she has the Earth Affinity, I believe, right?
I think so. Yeah, she does, which is the best affinity in the game.
Yes. So when I'm usually playing this game, if I ever just want to steamroll through the game and beat it quickly or just have a power fantasy, I'll support Tanith Marcia together and Oscar Kieran together with A supports, and then I'll pair Marcia Kieran with a B support and Tanith Oscar with a B support and get like a support square going on where there's always an Earth Affinity involved.
I think that supports are at probably their most powerful outside of the Awakening Fates era in this game, simply because they are very low effort to activate, and like Earth Affinity, if you know what affinities you're going for, which is Earth, probably 90% of the time, you can do a lot with them.
Yeah, if you stack two people with Earth Affinities on top of each other, you dodge tank everything. Who needs defense when you just can't get hit, especially in a 2RN game? Going from even just 40 to 30 hit on you lowers your chances of getting hit by so much that it's incredible.
So do you have anything else to say about Tanith? I could talk about her for ages, but I do want to move on to Janaf and Ulki, who are largely interchangeable, but I do have a couple of things to say about what makes them different.
Yeah, I don't really have much else other than she's great. Use her. Who cares if you already have two other flyers? Just field her anyways.
Well, you have 4 other flyers, 5 if you count Rayson.
Oh yeah, we get Janaf and Ulki.
Yes, we do. I want to briefly touch on Janaf. I know that we lost the footage of a little bit of talking about Janaf, but not all of it. So things might repeat. But the main thing is he has the good gauge. He has the 16 gauge, which is good. And his stats are like all right. He's basically flying Leth. Joins much later with a little bit better stats, but not that much better. I used to think that like his stats were significantly better than her because he joined so much later, but it turns out that's not the case. Ulki has a bad gauge. He has a weird gauge. It's 5 instead of like 0 or 16 or anything like that's a multiple 4. But you can give him the demi-band and he'll be fine. I'm giving him the demi-band for this chapter. I don't think he's gonna hang on to it long term, but I don't know. Try him out, I guess. Do you have anything interesting to say about these two?
My only experience with Janaf and Ulki is in my current Radiant Dawn first time playthrough, but when it comes to Path of Radiance, I don't think I've ever fielded either of these two outside of getting the Night Ring. I think by this point, I run out of need for Legoose unless they have Smite, because by this point I have my 5 Paladins, my 3 Flyers, promoted Mist, and I just don't really have deployment slots for them anymore.
He has increased dodge, I guess. They're flyers that you can shove very easily because they're not mounted. They're pretty light, which is nice. I value Janaf like moderately in terms of draft racing stuff, or not draft racing, but like casual drafts, and just sort of, even if you just want to try one, like I think he's better because of the gauge, even though the stats are not. Well, he's higher speed too. I don't know.
Even just by the gauge, I would definitely pick Janaf any day. I really dislike having to wait for a unit transform partway through the fight. That's why I like Leth so much, especially in early game, is transform and I can just use her.
But I did not lose the footage of us talking about Rayson. I feel like we're done talking about the birds, right? Like the hawks, they're interesting. I'm gonna deploy them. I'm gonna demi-band Ulki, like, but yeah, they're flying one-range birds.
I think they kind of get the idea.
Okay.
No 2 range, no Canto yet.
Yeah, no Canto sucks so bad. Like flyers without Canto, but they still have arrow and wind weakness. It's just the worst. The fact that they're flying is helpful in the next chapter, but I'd much rather move on to talking about Rayson. We've already talked about him, so I think I'm just gonna like cut at this point and stitch them together.
Sounds good.
Alrighty, bye-bye.
See ya.
I think the less time spent focusing on Ulki, the better. So let's move on to Rayson. Those are stats, they're unimpressive, but they don't matter. Do you mind if while I'm like doing a little bit of inventory management from the clusterfuck that was Chapter 17, talking about Rayson and dancers in general?
Yeah, for sure. Dancers are a unit you should probably just field in just about every chapter you can, unless you think they're going to be a hindrance to you in some way. Like if a chapter's full of ballista or siege tomes and it's just going to be really hard to keep them safe, then you might be able to get away with not having them. But and just in case you didn't know that Rayson, yes, Rayson is the dancer, and when he is first deployed, he has an empty gauge that while he's untransformed, he can dance for one person and give them another turn. But when his gauge fills, which I'm not sure how many turns it takes about 5 or 6 turns for his gauge to fill.
5 turns, he gains 4 per turn.
Okay, so it takes 5 turns for him to transform. When he transforms, he gets 2 or 3 extra movements, and he can dance for all 4 adjacent tiles around him. He turns into a genealogy dancer.
And genealogy dancers really are really fucking good. They can't keep up as well as Rayson can because they're on foot, and genealogy, like horses, are just like so fast. But I mean, being able to do a four-way dance is really powerful.
Go back to Racing real quick, because one thing, the only things that I'm usually afraid of with Racing are Siege Tomes and Ballista, which Ballista can be a little annoying because he's considered a flying unit, so he takes... Or he's not considered flying until he transforms, right?
Correct. See, he just
Okay,
has
so that's
Laguz
right.
under his type, whereas Ulki has Laguz Bird and Flying. It's the same with fire
That's
damage
true.
against cats. Like, Laguz Slayers will always work against them, but fire damage won't be effective against them unless they're transformed.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so for Racing, he would technically take effective damage from Blizzard Tomes and other wind magics, but he has really high resistance, especially after he transforms. He gets really high resistance, and it makes keeping him safe a little bit easier. The Ballista will still be an issue, but I don't find Ballista to be too scary in this game, especially since they usually have to point in one direction and they can only fire kind of forward in 10 spaces. They're not like GBA Ballista where you can fire 10 spaces in any direction. But he's so good. He flies so he doesn't get slowed by terrain. You get a night ring here in the next chapter or two that lets him use his remaining move after he takes action, which it's not his personal night ring, but it just makes positioning him a lot easier. It makes it easier to say, I want you to move here, dance for these people, and then use your remaining to go to a better place. Which is why I could potentially see an argument for Boots Racing, but I always just throw them on Marcia because I love Boots Marcia so much. That sniper had a really weird portrait. I thought generic portraits were just like a picture of a soldier.
Okay, so there's no reason to field Volk over Soth in this chapter other than combat. I was checking the stealables. The Elixir Volk cannot get, and the Menstaff Soth can still get. So, I'm just gonna field Soth to save a little bit of gold for the chests. Yeah, everything you said about dancers, they are... It's ridiculous, like, they give you a bunch of flexibility. You basically get to not just use your best unit twice, but use, like, whatever unit is most useful this turn twice.
I usually end up spending all of my Lagoo Stones on Racing. That's who I forgot how many Lagoo Stones you get in a single playthrough, but I spend all of them on Racing because I just want to transform.
You only get 2 or 3. In difficulties below maddening, you only get 2 or 3, to my remembrance.
I think it is too, because I always like using them on him turn 1, and in the chapters where I know I need to move a lot of units. For example, I'll use a Lagoo Stone on him turn 1 in Clash, and there's a few other chapters that I like Lagoo Stoning him on turn 1 and just watch him go crazy. Although, funnily enough, because he ends up becoming my only Lagoose I use in the long term, I usually end up giving him the Bayork Guard, which probably doesn't do very much for him.
Yeah, why would he see combat?
Yeah. Oh, that's why I gave him the Bayork Guard, because I gave up on getting the Night Ring my last time I played. I'm really looking forward to seeing you get the Night Ring, because getting the Night Ring is like bending my arm backwards.
It's really not that hard. It's really not that hard. In a Gross playthrough, it's very easy to do reliably, and in this playthrough, it's very easy to do reliably if I'm willing to lose units, which I am.
I need to find a video of this thing, because I've always struggled getting the Night Ring.
You just need to know how shoving works. You need to check Raven ranges. You need to, like, know transformation stuff. It's not that difficult.
I don't know a lot about transformation, so maybe that's my issue. I'll just have... Usually Astrid helps me out a lot with that, because I just put a bow on her so she doesn't counter, and then all of the ravens just attack her and surround her, and they do damage. One of my favorite parts about this game is after Ike promotes and the story starts to escalate, the music that plays whenever he becomes your phase changes.
He's familiar, right?
Hey, it's this guy. Yeah, I've seen a Brave Bow before. I just got off of playing some Genealogy, so I'm pretty used to seeing Brave Bows.
So, Last chapter, we summarily executed Gotri for his, desertion. And, I mean, in part, that was also because we were trying to enact a genocide on the Armor Knights. But I think that we should just continue the cycle of violence and summarily execute Shannon for similar reasons. Ooh. There we
So
go.
that's your excuse for not trying to recruit him.
God fucking damn it, Jacob!
You didn't remember! It worked! I always win.
Oh, but I kind of win because we got to see a critical animation. So, you know, there's that. God fucking damn it, Jacob. This is why I secretly sabotaged your fucking internet.
You wanted to watch Stefan fight Oliver last chapter.
No,
so you
I
turned him
remember. I fucking remember. I just hate you.
I'm gonna need to start a counter of all the times you forget to turn your animations off. Well, I was saying
I
something.
do not.
And
I do not care
laughing.
for you. I do not care for you whatsoever. That I can't. I can't say that. That's mean, and mostly untrue.
So to anyone who watching who doesn't know, yes, Shannon shows up in this chapter again, but to recruit him, you have to speak to him with Rolf, and then kill him with Ike. Or can you just kill him with anyone?
Nope, you have to speak to him with Rolf and kill him with Ike, because I missed him on my first playthrough for that reason. I thought that, oh, I guess you can't get him then.
And it'd be one thing if getting him again, if you got a decent unit, but by this point, he's not good anymore. He's good for the early game because he doesn't die and he kills enemies, but once you reach this point of the game, if you want to go just highlight his stats real quick just to remind us of how bad his stats are.
Yeah, give me one moment. I'm just doing a dance. I'm not using the Goostone on Racing this chapter. I'm not ruling it out for future runs. I haven't figured out whether I'm going to 1-turn or 2-turn solo, and that'll determine if I'm using it there. Because having a transformed race in turn 2 is really helpful for the 2-turn clear. On Maniac at least. We'll talk about that when we get to it. But yeah, look at his stats. They're trash. A bunch of 9s.
So even if he did get a bunch of levels, he doesn't have too high of growth rates, and by this point in the game, someone who sometimes kills one enemy on player phase, it isn't that good when you have units who can use javelins and hand axes and 1 round with them.
Well, and not just that, but in order to recruit him, you have to talk to him with Rolf, who is the only other archer in the game. So if you are the sort of person who wants to have like a trained sniper, you have to walk Rolf there. Like, your Rolf is probably going to be trained if you're walking Rolf to get Shannon. Otherwise, it's just very, very, very tedious, which, that's not to say that you can't do it. It's not that difficult, in fact. Ooh, I forgot that these guys start on the map and we're not reinforcements. Thankfully, Soth and Riss are out of range for next turn as well, because Tanith needs to do some combat again.
And there's so many siege tomes on this chapter. At least there's at least 2 or 3 of them, I believe. There's a blizzard and a bolting, I believe.
Yes,
or is there
there's
only just one?
I know that there's a blizzard and a bolting. On the last time I played was on Maniac mode, and there's so many more on there.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I wasn't mistaking it for that, because I remember seeing someone play Maddening mode, and there were so many siege tomes, but still having 2 or 3 siege tomes, it makes walking Rolf over here. And if you have a trained Rolf, what do you want a trained Shannon for? You have your guy who can use... You have your guy who can kill 1 enemy on player phase.
Yeah.
If you want to use bows that badly, use Astrid, or give bows to Kieran, or Someone like that. Someone who can use a bow, and then you can trade a javelin or hand back to their top weapon slot.
Let's see if
On the bright side, he
how
drops
far
his
can
brave bow when you kill him, so if you do decide to kill him, you'll still get the brave bow. It's not like you're missing out on it by not recruiting him.
Sorry, just like working out my dancing.
Oh yeah, you're good. If you plan your turn around your dance, it'll be the most efficient way to use a dancer.
Especially once he's transformed. Like I mentioned, there's a later chapter that there's a couple of different ways to like 1 and 2 turn clear it, and any of the 2 turn clears, the reason you do 2 instead of 1 is because you want to get some of the treasure. Yeah, let's do that.
Gamble.
No, not gambling. You want to get some of the treasure because there's a lot of really good treasure in that map, but it is pretty frustrating to try and get. Let's make Ike useful.
That makes sense.
Let's make Devdon useful. Oh wait, no, I can't.
I think what may race and dance for 4 people just as good as it is in genealogy in some way is Super Kanto synergizes really well with 4-way dances, because with these super good mounted units you can trade or attack and then Kanto into a diamond shape.
Yes.
Whereas in another game, if you tried to do 4-foot unit to dance for, you'd have to stop them all on the tiles where you need to dance for them.
In addition to that, because Rayson gets the Night Ring basically for free, I mean, the game kind of hints at that you want to give it to him anyway, because he gets it in, like, it is given to him. It's put in his inventory in an event that we are going to be getting next chapter.
Oh yeah, that's next chapter.
I should have left the hand axe on him. I forgot that both of those guys had 2 range options. It would have been nice to be able to counter.
Ooh, I love the Siege Tome map anim.
Yeah.
I think the Siege Tomes have great animations in this game.
They actually only have map animations in this game. They don't have non-map animations. How far do you fucks reach? Okay, so I do need to get the reinforcements, and not only that, I need to get you guys like to safety, and potentially, actually, let's like put Devdon down here to bait one of them. Items. Yeah, let's give him Oscar.
Yeah, this is kind of strange seeing this group of units in this chapter. Seeing someone like Devdon or the 2 Hawks in this chapter, because usually at this point I'm just using Makalov, Oscar, Kieran, Astrid, Boyd. And we were talking about the Night Ring earlier. I can't really think of anyone else that makes good use of the Night Ring, unless you wanted to if you have a favorite foot unit and you want to give them the boots and the Night Ring and kind of turn them into a diet mounted unit, I guess.
I mean, I'll be honest, like, I'm genuinely considering potentially doing something with, like, Stefan Night Ring, possibly for some chapters, just because he's going to be my best combat.
That is true. I remember for that one chapter where you have to get to the tower right after you get the Ragnell, I usually just solo that chapter with Ike because I hate having to deal with all the units, and I think I usually give him the Night Ring on that chapter just so I can attack something and then Kanto into a forest.
Yeah, Twisted Tower. You actually turned me on to the Ike solo. You were mentioning it as I was getting to that chapter in my Maniac playthrough. Come on.
Yeah, I just like Ike soloing that chapter because I don't have to deal with moving all my units amongst all of the status stabs and reinforcements.
Okay, this is less than optimal use of my transformed unit, but I fucked up and forgot to heal Kieran, and I believe that he's in blizzard range, so we're just gonna do that.
Something really weird I find about the Because this is a route map, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I always find it bizarre that this isn't a kill boss map, but whatever. The the turn count requirement for maximum bonus experience I found is the turn when a bunch of Lagoos that appear all the way up at the top of the map appear. So it's almost like the
Yeah.
game saying, "Ah, you failed the bonus experience requirement. Now you have to fight way more enemies."
You're not getting anything.
It almost reminds me of failing a guide requirement, Binding Blade. Oh, look at the Holy Guard blocking that top tile like that.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried that they'll move and then Soth will get killed. Well, but this guy can't reach Soth, can he? So, like, yeah, so the other ones shouldn't be able to either. Even if the Holy Guard move, like, because this guy can't reach where Riss is. It should be fine.
This is fine.
Jill might also be in danger from the like getting one shot from the blizzard if I leave her in blizzard range, because it deals effective damage and her res is so garbage because I got rid of the full guard.
I didn't think about that.
So as sort of like penance for killing your favorite flyer, I took a bunch of tools away from my favorite flyer, Jill, which is probably going to result in her being benched at some point. I don't think we're there yet, but I mean, you saw I benched Mariam for, I wanted to, I don't know whether Mariam is better than Ulki in terms of like putting the Laguz, or the half shift band, the transformation band, I can't remember the name of it, but
the demi band.
The demi band, yeah, putting that on him. I don't know whether that makes him like better or worse. I was just like, hey, flyer, like flyer utility.
Whoa.
Good. What?
I've never seen that combo before.
Yes, they actually both have a line of dialogue. I see Janaf's almost every playthrough because I usually, like, I take him for a spin in this chapter and the next one, and then usually bench him. I do think he's useful here. You probably have some better units. That's annoying.
Yeah, I've never used them before in this chapter, so I didn't know he said that. That's kind of neat. Maybe I have a sour taste about the two crow boys in my mouth because my first time trying to get the Night Ring, I vaguely remembered that you have to have Rayson talk to Naysala or something without killing any of the crows. So I got so many turns into the chapter, finally shoved Rayson enough to get him close enough to talk to Naysala, and the talk command didn't appear.
Wait,
and
why
I was
didn't
really
use oh, because he doesn't move.
Oh, that's right, he's stationary. This isn't Shadow Dragon DS yet.
Yeah, we'll use the wing spear, reinforce.
More
You'll notice that I named a spear after Braum because he's the fallen comrade that matters. He actually made a sacrifice, and I don't want his sacrifice to be in vain. Whereas, as I mentioned, I summarily executed Gotri. That guy fucking deserved death for desertion. And then, of course, Marcia. If I'm going to make a weapon out of Marcia, it's probably going to be a sword so that I can pretend I'm going to give it to Maklov and instead give it to fucking, Stefan, because he's a good sword unit. Or give it to Tanith. Actually, like, I do like the idea of making a sword named Marcia and giving it to Tanith, because we're unfortunately gonna miss out on the Tanith Marcia support, but I love that support. It's basically about Tanith saying that she's going to punish Marcia for her desertion, which, hey, I guess that's a theme of this chapter, is punishing deserters. Yeah. We'll send you over here, since I don't want to put you in like too many siege tome ranges, like having you help out with the dragons down there if the reinforcements need help, or rescue dropping Riss and Soth is going to be a initial thing. But yeah, so she talks about how she's going to punish her. I was talking to a friend of ours in Mecha's Keep, who was saying that, like, it's like Marcia's getting court-martialed. Because the Begnion Holy Knights are like the army, and Tanith is like, "Hey, I'm going to punish you for leaving," and like that's the support. And then like she ends up like essentially being a refugee in Crimea in Radiant Dawn. So I think I like Say's interpretation that uh, Marcia was just fucking court-martialed for desertion.
But if she didn't desert, then we couldn't have used her in chapter 9 or whatever chapter she joins in.
Yeah, she joins in chapter 9. She was useful, like she was useful in Blood Runs Red. I feel bad, but not bad enough to like. It was inevitable. Someone had to make the sacrifice, and it wasn't going to be Jill because favoritism, sure, but the actual reason is Jill recruits Har.
That's true. You need Joe for her. I'm gonna have to go do a Marcia solo or something.
Hold on.
Here in a bit.
Hold on. They have a boss
Doing?
conversation. Hold on. They have a boss conversation. Wow.
Shannon, you're with Dane of all things.
I've never seen this. I've seen the boss conversation between Riss and Shannon because, well, they actually have a talk conversation. And
How have you seen the boss conversation between Shannon and Riss, but not Titania and Shannon?
So remember how I talked about how in a draft my only magic user before Bastion was Riss? So I forged him a tome called Respect. And like he became just sort of a meme mage. Like I early promoted him. I gave him the mage band. I was playing with the bands, so he had plus 10% to his magic growth. Let's pay respect to each other by fucking murdering each other. Wow. Sorry, I normally.
Curious.
Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh fuck!
It's whoa!
No!
He has 22 crit chance.
Oh my god, Titania!
Oh,
Holy shit! Shannon really didn't hold anything back.
She bleeds.
Wow, I know that wasn't a unit death, but this does seem like it's potentially a good place to stop, because especially with the technical issues earlier, we are pretty late, and we just got super racing. So we'll be right back. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Share your favorite Shannon moment.